All right, here we go. All right. This is awful. Can I like pick the darkest spot? Maybe it'll work. No. Okay. Guess we're just going dark mode today. I've been having the worst time with this lighting. Just, we'll roll with it. Let's get the post out. Then we'll go ahead and switch over to dark mode. My goodness. I don't know what's going on, guys. I couldn't tell you what's going on with that. It's never been this bad before. But we'll roll with it. We'll roll with it. It's fine. Got on my fancy Friday clothes. We'll just hop right into it today, and then, yeah, this is terrible, but it's what we've got. I've been working on this for like 5 minutes. Oh, why didn't you do 10? Because I'd be late, guys. I would be late. Well, we'll hop right into it. I apologize. Today is Friday, January 30th, 2026. This is episode number 46 of Addressing the Issues. So, guess in our first story today, Don Lemon was arrested last night in Los Angeles after he was indicted by a grand jury. That was after 3 separate judges refused to allow the DOJ to press charges. One of these judges, the magistrate judge, is married to the Assistant Attorney General for Minnesota, Douglas Micko. Micko's wife, Caitlin, works under Attorney General Keith Ellison, who is under fire for the Minnesota daycare fraud case and has abetted insurrectionists in Minneapolis. So it's no wonder why he would refuse to press charges on another insurrectionist. Don Lemon's charges include conspiracy to deprive rights and violating the FACE Act for his stunt of storming and interrupting a church service at City's Church in Minneapolis. 3 others, aside from Don Lemon, were also arrested, including Traherne Jean Cruz, Georgia Fort, and Jamel Lydell Lundy. The memes that have come out today about this are absolutely hilarious. If you have time, scroll through X, you'll find plenty. Whether it be that once Don Lemon goes to jail, he's never going to want to come out. He keeps asking the officers to repeat the cavity search, saying that they have missed a spot. Absolutely hilarious, in my opinion. I hope that Rumble's been going. I hope it has. It's alright. Memes have been funny. It's about time Pam Bondi got this. So one small victory for the black hole desk. So, that's good. Ew. I know it's a little dark. Am I frozen on Rumble right now, or is that just my feed? I think it's just that feed. Okay. We'll move on to the next thing. Oh, you're talking about the Don Lemon memes. Okay, I see what's going on here. So President Trump has announced that he has nominated Kevin Warsh to be the chairman of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve. Warsh was previously the youngest federal governor at 35 years old, serving between 2006 and 2011, and was the Federal Reserve's representative to the G20. He was also previously the administrative governor overseeing operations, personnel, and financial performance of the board. Prior to working on the board, he was the special assistant to George Bush for 4 years for economic policy and the executive secretary, the White House Economic Council. Kevin Warsh was previously worked as a member of the Mergers and Acquisitions Department at Morgan Stanley, lecturer at Stanford School of Business, and distinguished visiting fellow in economics at the Hoover Institution. Also, he was a partner of Stanley Druckenmiller at Duquesne Family Office LLC and on the UPS board for 13 years. So UPS released a statement today congratulating his nomination. They said, since joining the UPS board more than 13 years ago, Kevin Warsh has served as a trusted advisor and colleague. His deep financial markets knowledge, global economic insight, crisis management expertise, and sound judgment have made him an invaluable member of our board. On behalf of our 400,000 employees, we celebrate his nomination and his willingness to serve our country in this key role. Kevin Warsh received his Bachelor of Arts degree at Stanford and his Juris Doctor from Harvard Law School. President Trump further commented on his decision to select Kevin Warsh over Kevin Hassett, stating, "He, Hassett, is doing such an outstanding job with me and my team at the White House that I just didn't want to let him go. Kevin Warsh will still need to be confirmed by Congress, given he's resided over the last financial crisis, his recent criticism of current Fed Chair Jerome Powell, his private sector experience, his willingness to lower interest rates, and perceived dovish Federal Reserve policy prioritizing stimulating economic growth and reducing unemployment over controlling inflation, preferring policies such as rate cuts and quantitative easing to encouraging borrowing and spending. I think he's probably a good choice given the circumstances. We'll get further into the circumstances that he's likely going to be stepping into. But it's probably good that he resided over one economic crash before in 2008. Because the markets don't look too great today, particularly crypto, gold, and silver, but we'll get into that later. Along with, markets yesterday. Yeah, it's not looking good, but maybe his experience in similar situations, similar not good situations, will help him, help us hopefully, lowering interest rates and stimulating economic growth is something I think everybody wants to see right now. So I think it probably is a good selection. Maybe his ties to the Bilderberg Group aren't the most hopeful for some people, but it seems like he's had a little bit of experience in economics, a little bit of experience in investing, a little bit of experience in money, actually a lot, but it's good to see that. Hopefully that will stimulate the economy over this next short while going into the future. So a partial government shutdown looms today, with the majority of the focus on ICE funding given the recent events in Minneapolis. President Trump made a Truth Social post on the matter last night, stating America is setting records in every way and our growth numbers are among the best ever. The only thing that can slow our country down is another long and damaging government shutdown. I'm working hard with Congress to ensure that we are able to fully fund the government without delay. Republicans and Democrats in Congress have come together to get the vast majority of the government funded until September, while at the same time providing an extension to the Department of Homeland Security, including the very important Coast Guard, which we are expanding and rebuilding like never before. Hopefully both Republicans and Democrats will give a very much needed bipartisan yes vote. And he signed it off, I do believe, Donald J. Trump. Yes, we do not need another government shutdown. It was disastrous. The last one, the longest ever. But the main issue right now is that Democrats are blocking a spending package that would fund the Department of Homeland Security, demanding new accountability measures and restrictions on immigration enforcement. 6 of the 12 total appropriations bills have been agreed upon, with agencies affected being the Department of Homeland Security, of course, Department of Defense, Department of Labor, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Education, Department of Transportation, Department of Housing and Urban Development, the Treasury, the State Department, Financial Services, and the General Government and the Small Business Administration. So the 6 appropriation bills that have been passed will continue funding the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Commerce, the Department of Justice, the Department of Science, Department of Energy and Water Development, Department of Interior and Environment, the legislative branch, of course, military construction, and Veterans Affairs. So this means that this weekend, national parks will be open, and the federal courts and the VA will remain open through a partial shutdown. Doesn't have much impact on the weekend, unless your VA does happen to be open on a Saturday. And if you want to go to a national park this weekend, if that was in your plans, feel free to go. You should still be able to go in and get at least most of, if not all, the amenities. So that'll be good. Spend some time out in nature. Enjoy it. Social Security payments, Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, unemployment benefits, and interest on the national debt will all remain in effect during this shutdown. And of course, like I said, most importantly, Congress will continue to be paid. They probably made sure that was passed first. Can't miss a paycheck if you're in Congress, I'll tell you what. Air traffic control and TSA airport security, law enforcement, military operations, and active duty personnel, essential health services, and the Postal Service will all operate during this partial shutdown. However, they will not receive immediate pay as it stands. The current plan is to remove the Department of Homeland Security from the package and pass the 5 other bills for full year funding and extend Department of Homeland Security via a 2-week continuing resolution to address Democrats' demands for funding, such as body cameras, use of force restrictions, and ending certain patrols. The issue is that the House has previously approved the 6-bill package, meaning that any changes made to it would need to go back through the House, which is currently on recess until Monday. But they had to get paid before they left, of course. So if the Senate can pass these 5 bills today and do the continuing resolution, they'll go back to the House on Monday, and over the next 2 weeks, Congress can and will determine the future funding and regulations for the Department of Homeland Security, only having a partial government shutdown over the weekend. That is the current goal. But assuming this happens, it should be much less consequential than the last shutdown. And unlike the complete government shutdown of last time, you'll still be able to enjoy all your national parks over the weekend. So, that's good. You don't want to ruin people's frosty visits to the national parks. And of course, you don't want to not pay your congressman. That would be awful. Yeah, that's where we stand with this possible or likely partial government shutdown. Seems that if they do not do a continuing resolution on DHS, that these other 5 bills are not going to be funded, meaning the partial government shutdown could last longer. So, I'm going to take some time today to address some things going down in the agriculture sector, things that impact farmers, therefore the food we eat. I've been putting this off for a while. Figured, what better day than possibly the busiest day of this week to throw it in the episode. So I did just that. There's a farm crisis in America. Farm debt last year is estimated at almost $600 billion currently. This story was first addressed by More Perfect Union. They did this first last year. But it's claimed that some of this farm debt crisis is an effect of President Trump's tariffs. However, the truth is that there's been a long ongoing war against farmers in America, and that tariffs were just the final nail in the coffin. And for some, that it's not only a metaphor, it's a real occurrence. Mental health and the suicide rate of farmers is one of, if not worse, the worst for an occupation in our nation. With debts going up, the prices American farmers pay are more, and what they're being paid is less. Estimates were that we would lose 35 to 40% of farmers in the 2025 year. And the problem with the current $12 billion aid is just, it's on top of $120 billion in the last 8 years. But that's also just a drop in the bucket of the actual farm debt. Like I said, this year is a little short of, or from last year is a little short of $600 billion. The farmers that do receive this money spend it all on their own debt to it's 7, I believe, main agriculture companies and lenders. I believe it's 3 seed companies, 4 fertilizer companies, and lenders. Meaning that these multinational companies and lenders are essentially using American farmers to launder U.S. taxpayer money to themselves. Farmers aren't able to use a single cent of it on themselves or on their farms. It goes straight through their hands to these big 7 multinational agriculture companies and lenders, which have lended money to them. The chief complaint from farmers as to how this is happening is the mergers and consolidations of agriculture input suppliers. Local seed-based companies have been pushed out of business and bought up, leaving only these multinational corporations. In the U.S., we have only 3 seed companies as opposed to thousands previously, and 4 fertilizer companies as opposed to almost 50 previously. And the worst part of this is we've likely lost a lot of the genetic pool in these crops. Meaning one bad disease outbreak could wipe out a vast majority to all of a specific crop. Instead of hundreds of different sub-varieties of wheat, we likely have consolidated to what is most profitable for these 3 major seed companies. Not only farms, but food supply is vulnerable due to disease or systemic attack. Many of you probably remember the Chinese researchers caught smuggling in a biological pathogen into the U.S. last year. So imagine, one of these 3 companies that one of the company's seeds were resistant. Just one to one of these pathogens that was smuggled in. It could spread nationwide, and it could wipe out essentially 2/3 of all of our farms, all of our crops in 1 year. We'd have a Dust Bowl or even famine situation like in the 1930s. Now, if there were, 10 to 20 of these varieties, it'd be much easier to mitigate this risk. These companies are also able to keep prices for products artificially inflated on farmers due to lack of competition. They're monopolies. There's no longer the opportunity that if someone is charging too much for seeds or fertilizer that you could just drive down the road for a better offer, nor can you negotiate because generally there's just one company that owns the companies that sell supplies, seeds in the general area, making them monopolies, as I've said. This means that while farmers get squeezed, that these companies have all the power to simply bump up their price when profit margins are low. And when farmers can no longer afford it, you, the taxpayer, ends up footing the bill through these aid rollouts. And when farmers finally default on their farms and move out of town, or I guess into town, that's less business that allows their communities to survive. Less people buying furniture, less people buying clothes at mom and pop shops, less companies or less customers at the restaurants in town. So all these companies too get forced under over time because of these large monopolies that are squeezing rural America. And when it's time to sell the crop, the farmers are no better off with the 4 main multinational grain companies. These companies control roughly 80% of the U.S. market. They simply have to take the price that these companies offer, even if it is at a loss for the farmers, because these companies will just go overseas, the countries like Brazil, like Argentina, who we bailed out, or Mexico, where labor price and therefore the product price is cheaper. So this further squeezes U.S. farmers. This means that not only are farmers squeezed by monopolies with their input costs, but they're also squeezed by monopolies when taking their products to market. If you can even call it a market. But that's my opinion. I don't think it's really a market if you only have one person that you can sell to. When these farmers do take their crops to the market, they're directly competing with other countries with cheaper labor to sell the same product to the same one company that they have access to. There's one buyer typically in these areas of produced grain, produced corn. And a solution that and it's not just the crops, but the same thing we're seeing in livestock. We're seeing it with the beef cartels. They do the same thing with animals, farmers of these animals. Like I was saying, the solution that farmers push for is to focus on producing strictly for American consumers and having a corresponding price floor. I don't think this is too bad of an idea. This means that they'll have a better idea for their margins and will need to receive less taxpayer bailouts, all while they make food for Americans in America, meaning that we'll have a little bit better idea of what's going in, what fertilizers are used, if they're toxic, if they're not, and people that'll, benefit even more so from selling. You'll benefit as a consumer, farmers will benefit as well. But a study that ran the numbers on this claimed that a swap to a similar system could have saved almost $100 billion in aid packages within the last 2 decades, meaning it would help your wallets as well with less taxes, less waste. But instead, we're sending this aid in the name of a farmer to monopolies and lenders that leave nobody but said monopolies and lenders in a better position. They're not getting better quality food. The farmers aren't making money still. The only people that are doing better are these monopolies. So it doesn't help, like I said, taxpayers, and it doesn't help these farmers. They'll still be in debt, and they'll still be squeezed by these monopolies. There's a few options, namely what they've came up with is establishing a price floor and producing American crops for American consumption, and or to break these monopolies up so small that multiple of these companies have to compete with each other for even the smallest of markets in America. Even the smallest of small rural town markets, there'll be at least two places they can sell this to so that they can make a profit. But it would benefit everybody. It would benefit our farmers, keep them in business, and it'll benefit us with access to locally grown ingredients as opposed to ingredients from countries with less stringent labor laws, less stringent chemical laws, less toxins in the food. I think it's a good idea. It's just something I figured needed to be addressed because farmers are honestly the backbone of our society, backbone of our nutrition. And they deserve a little bit more recognition than what they get currently. But in another story, a judge has ruled today that Luigi Mangione will not face the death penalty for the assassination of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. This is one day after a man was arrested for impersonating an FBI agent armed with a barbecue fork and a pizza cutter-like blade to break Mangione out of prison. This guy thought he was going to go full MacGyver and free Luigi. It's absolutely unreal. But the magistrate judge ordered him to be detained yesterday as it was believed that he posed a flight risk. Well, duh, he posed a flight risk. Anybody who thinks they can free a murderer from prison with a pizza cutter and a barbecue fork is obviously going to be a flight risk. You're going to have somebody outside of a cell 24 hours a day, like Epstein, just to ensure that he doesn't pull off a Alcatraz-level escape. He'll snag Mangione, Diddy, and Maduro on the way out, too. But yeah, of course you're going to have to keep that guy in custody. But that's the current story in the, I guess, Luigi Mangione saga chronicles at this point. Somebody's going to have to write like a 8-part series on this. Speaking of Epstein, another batch of the Epstein files were released today. Of course, on a Friday. Of course. So nobody will be able to go through it during the working week. That's how we'll get to spend weekends as journalists, of course. Over 3 million new documents were released and almost 200,000 images and videos in total. Bill Gates was mentioned. He was attempting to solicit STD medications from Epstein after sleeping with Russian girls, as he wanted to discreetly slip them to his wife, his ex-wife, Melinda. I guess we can see why she divorced him. But another file has a complaint against President Trump that a friend of a 13 to 14-year-old girl claimed that said friend bit him while performing oral sex 35 years prior and was hit in the face for it, and also claimed that she was abused by Epstein. So a woman claimed that her friend bit President Trump during a sexual encounter 35 years prior. That may be the most damning evidence so far on President Trump. But there are allegedly hundreds of other mentions of President Trump in the newly released files today. I'll let other people do more sleuthing than I did. I did pretty much just surface level. I searched Trump. There was quite a few files that came up. Didn't have time to look through them all. There was too much going on the day. I guess that's probably by design. But we are now down to roughly only 50% of the Epstein files remaining unreleased, which they were required by law to be released in full by midnight of December 19th last year. So we're getting close. We're halfway to a month and a half ago now. Go figure. That black hole just keeps getting deeper, doesn't it? Pam Bondi, what is wrong with your desk? All right. In an update on Iran, this was from a small journal. It says U.S. military officials have allegedly told at least one U.S. ally in the Middle East that strikes on Iran could happen as soon as Sunday of this weekend. Saudi Arabia ruled out the U.S. use of its airspace in discussions on Tuesday of this week, meaning that this info could be coming out from Saudi officials. U.S. officials have refused to comment on this matter. Iranian leadership is currently scrambling from Russia to Turkey in an attempt to make a deal that would not involve U.S. strikes. However, a U.S. intelligence official claimed that this wasn't about the nuclear nor missile program, but this was in fact about regime change. Oh, great. It's about regime change. Get ready for a flood of migrants, guys. It's what happens every time. We might even fly them back again. I don't know. That was awful. Key targets for the U.S. are expected to be nuclear, ballistic, and military sites around the country, but also to decapitate the current government in Iran. This was all stated by a intelligence official focused on the Middle East. It seems we're just counting down the hours until an intervention, or as many call it, this is some sort of 5D chess to exert maximum pressure on the regime in hopes that they'll step down peacefully with a large show of force through military buildup and this maximum rhetoric campaign, including leaks such as these to instill fear in the regime. But I do believe now that one thing is unequivocally clear. The main goal in Iran is regime change. Somebody said it publicly. Everybody else has thought it. But it does seem like that is what this is all about. You know, if they step down and flee, then the goal will be achieved peacefully through rhetoric, through this buildup. But if they do not, I'd consider that we will see regime change through military force. Iran has currently sought to restart negotiations with the U.S. However, so far the U.S. doesn't seem interested. Both sides seem fully prepared for war, if that's what it comes down to, threatening overwhelming force on U.S. military bases in the region was Iran. The U.S. claiming, at least through this source, that they want to decapitate the regime in charge currently. But as of right now, it seems the U.S. knows exactly what it wants. It wants regime change in Iran, and it's willing to play hardball to get there. I don't want to see a prolonged conflict. I don't think anybody does. But it does seem, at least with the nature of this article, that these were people planted to get this out. I think they're trying to play a little bit of mind games on the regime right now. I don't know if they'll fall for it. I mean, they've been scrambling from point A to point B, places to have meetings, have negotiations, asking that they not be attacked during the negotiation phase. Does that happen before? I think we remember that. But it seems that it's either going to happen one way or another. We're going to see regime change, whether it be this weekend, like is alluded to, or if they reach some deal in Turkey, reach some deal in Russia to leave, just live in Russia like Assad. Maybe they'll live in Turkey. I don't know if they're willing to do that. But it seems like that may be what they're looking to do, get out with their lives, and I guess then the second revolution in Iran would be successful. But I'm hoping, this was a 5D chess move, as they are claimed to be. as to avoid military intervention. I don't want to see people coming back in body bags halfway around the world. We've seen that the majority of my lifetime. I'm glad it's finally stopped, but it could start again. So that's where we're at. Keep your eyes out for Sunday, as it could be the first day of attacks on Iran. In other news, I alluded to this a little bit earlier. There was a massive market sell-off today, including crypto, silver, and gold. Gold prices have fallen about 9%. Silver prices have dipped 30%. This follows yesterday's massive sell-off in tech. So I hope Kevin Warsh is good at navigating an economic crisis as he claims he is, because that doesn't look good. I mean, they may have been inflated a little bit. They were very bullish markets a month ago, but now either this is a massive correction or something's going on. I'm not an economist, so this is up for, I guess, Kevin Warsh to figure out in a couple of months, assuming he's confirmed. In other news, in an executive order, there's set to be the Freedom 250 IndyCar street race in Washington, D.C., August 21st through August 23rd, as part of these celebrations for the nation's 250th anniversary of independence. This is expected to be a free spectator event, which will be broadcast live on Fox Sports. So all my racing fans, you can rejoice. There's a free race in Washington, D.C., albeit if you can afford to get a hotel room. I'm sure it'll be expensive. But this is just one more event in the extravagant, honestly, celebration of 250 years of independence for this country. There's supposed to be the America Fair. I believe that's in Iowa. That could be fun. I bet that's going to be something to see. All the states come together. And I guess like a World's Fair style deal. But it's just states. It's just America. I'm excited. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the Freedom 250. It's supposed to be a street course race, I believe, around the National Mall. So that could be really entertaining. I guess if you can afford a hotel room and get there early enough to have a view. Or if you get a nice hotel room, high enough, you could look down onto it. That's not a bad idea either. Okay. I guess in our second final story, there was some general strike today. I'm not sure if anyone whatsoever has actually noticed. People were supposed to skip work, skip school, and not shop. I'm planning on doing my part later and shopping at Target. It's one of their most hated stores. I need to get something. And honestly, I didn't notice it. Maybe I've seen some videos of kids walking out of school. Half of them seem like they don't care. They look like the kids that walked out were the ones that like going to the bathroom too often. It's like, why do you need to go to the bathroom 3 times in one class? Why are your eyes that red? That's who it looked like was half of them. The other half, they were excited to be there, I guess. They have been successfully brainwashed by the teachers at our schools. But honestly, those are kids. I mean, I don't know. Give them F's for walking out of class. They got zeros on their work that day. But if somebody, didn't show up at work today, and you're the boss, just fire them. Just fire them. This white saviorism thing, this cult, I would call it, it's so annoying. I'm so tired of it. I thought we were all able to hold our own around here, but we've got Karens running around telling you need to stand up for somebody that can obviously stand up for themselves better than you can, Karen. I'm sorry. That's my opinion on that. I'm not sorry, actually. Fire them. And give the kids zeros. They earned it. I guess in our final story today, we have another cold front this weekend with possible blizzard conditions in North Carolina, a possible bomb cyclone, which is a rapid developing circulating system, which will bring snow to the Carolinas, in particular North Carolina. It's where the blizzard conditions are expected. So it's going to be cold. It's going to be snowy again. I don't know that their roads are even cleaned up. I should have asked some of my contacts from back home. So are y'all roads good for this weekend? It's about to snow again. And the NHL Stadium Series game scheduled in Tampa this weekend may feel a lot like winter. We'll have near freezing temps in Florida. So don't come. Don't come to Florida. Please. We're full. Yeah, I'm excited to watch that game. Should be cool. Got it all decked out. Pirates theme for being at Tampa. It just seems to be what they like. Go Buccaneers, I guess. It's at Buccaneer Stadium. What is it, Raymond James? I think that's what it's called. Chad's there. It'll be outdoors. Should feel cold. Should feel like winter there. Should be a spectacle, too. So I hope everybody there enjoys it. If you're watching on TV, they'll be cold, so you can feel good that you're inside, at home. Temperature's probably set upper 60s, low 70s. You'll be feeling a lot warmer than them, I promise. Well, that's all we have for today. Remember, the Olympic special will be tomorrow. I'm planning on going live around 4, maybe a little earlier. Depends on when I'm ready. Lots of stories to cover, interesting things, new sports, removed sports, countries that aren't allowed, stories going into it, things to watch for. Yeah, that'll be tomorrow. Like I said, probably right around 4. I should check when that Stadium Series game is. It might be at the exact same time. I'll be competing with the NHL for my viewership. Uh-oh. Yeah, that's when I'm planning on doing it. So yeah, I hope you guys will join. I'm going to do it live. Yeah, should be fun. The Olympic special. Olympics are coming up next week. I can't remember what day at this point. But yeah, they're next week. We're going to do it now because next week I'll have to do, or not have to, I'm going to do a Ryan Ruth special because that dude's story needs to be told as well. Crazy fellow. But yeah, remember to go ahead and drop a like. Drop a like before you leave. Like it on YouTube. Like it on Rumble. Subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube. Or follow on Rumble. If you want to subscribe on Rumble, feel free to. You get fancy little red messages. You get a little logo next to your name. I see that. Chat, if you saw any parts that you figured were useful to somebody else, go ahead and share this. Clip it for them if you want. There are limitations to the link that you can clip, but yeah, just tell them, hey, you should watch this. You know, give them a little timestamp. They'll click the video, watch, maybe they'll drop a like as well. And yeah, that's all we have for today. So I'm going to go through these chats. Ew, I know, I'm good. But yeah, the whole Don Lemon thing, ew. Syngenta in Greensboro. Yeah, Syngenta growing up, that company was weird. Nobody knew what they did. None of the kids did. Growing up, you now know that they're one of the monopolies in the ag business. Absolutely, I don't know if it's absolutely. There are a lot of jobs they brought into a city for the agriculture business. A little fishy. You'd think they'd be a little bit more connected to rural communities, communities that farmed. Not a fan of the death penalty, but if there was ever a time, or if there was a time to apply it, cold-blooded execution on a public street, yeah, I'd agree. But he's too cute, guys. He's got too cute of a face to get the death penalty. No, I mean, our justice system just needs to do better. It'll be white privilege if he doesn't. But it's because they think his face is too cute to actually do it to him. And think, oh, maybe one day he'll get out. He murdered somebody. It's life. It's life in prison. He'll never get out. And if somebody does pardon him, that could be the end of America. I'll just say that. You're just okaying cold-blooded murder. That's a very slippery slope. So I don't see what the point is. We'll get to fund his meals, fund his room and board for the rest of his life. People will still be fangirling over a murderer. But I guess that is the case. It wouldn't be the first time. People like the Manson family, they were murderers as well. So that's that. I don't know. My opinion is you're probably right, but it's a lot easier to say he's got a cute little face and have the option to pardon him for his heinous actions at a later date. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. Just would set a terrible, terrible, terrible precedent on the United States of America, particularly our pardon system, our justice system. So that's that. Make sure you guys are dropping a like, subscribing, turn on notifications. So if I do go live a little bit early tomorrow for the Olympic thing, the Olympic special, you'll be notified. You'll be able to tune in, at least on time. And yeah, that's the plan for tomorrow. I'll see you guys around 4 then. But to my people on the East Coast, I hope you get home safe. To my people further west, I hope you finish up your workday strong, get home safe as well. Assuming you went, I guess, because, if you did do the general strike today, unsubscribe. That's how I'll end it today. If you did the general strike, don't bother me. You're not my fan. All right. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you again.